Hi, this is Gregory for photosincolor.com, and today I'm going to show you how to use the slideshow module in Lightroom. Theme tune, do-do-do-do-do-do, slideshow, slideshow, slideshow. That was me creating a slideshow. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the slideshow module inside Lightroom because I've had a few questions about this, and before I get started I do want to say a few things. I don't like the slideshow module in Lightroom. I think Adobe creates amazing products. Lightroom's incredible for the most part, and so is Photoshop and so many of its other features. It does things better than anyone else. That's why it's so good. However, there's a few things inside Lightroom that it does worse than so many of the products. So I just think, if you're not gonna do it better than everyone, just don't do it. Or if you're gonna do it really well. And I just think that the slideshow module has to go a long way. And I will explain why. Maybe, and please leave me a comment below if I've got this wrong and you think it's amazing and incredible and I'm just using it incorrectly. So please leave me a comment, thumbs up and thumbs down to tell me what you think about this video. In fact, just thumbs up, no thumbs down. So let's jump into the slideshow module, and I'm going to talk through a few things why I like it and dislike it. So I am going to be going through all of the different features of this, which are all in the right-hand panel here. But before I do, I just want to go over a few things that I think are completely a little bit weird. First of all is, you've got loads of settings and you've made most of your settings, and then you get to the background settings later on. Well, I think that that should be one of the first things you do, because setting the color of it will affect lots of other things. So that's just in the wrong place. It's also called backdrop. It should be called background. I've also got a thing called color. Like, some of the namings of things in this are very confusing. The next thing is, the first thing that you do is you start looking at the border of this, and then it goes into layout. And what's really confusing is the layout is actually the frame size of the image, whereas up here it says zoom to fill frame, and then below it says layout. This should be frame size because they work together. Anyway, it gets very confusing, so I just think that they really need to sort out this side panel here. So let's jump in and let's really have a look at how this works. Now, before you actually start creating anything in a slideshow, always make sure that over in the library module that you have the correct folder selected, because once you're in slideshow, you're stuck with the folder that you're in unless you're using collections, okay? So that's just a good thing to remember. So let's start from the top. Now, again, the order is a little bit weird, but I'll go through it using Lightroom's order. So zoom to fill frame basically means if you click on this, it makes the image completely fill the frame that you've selected. So depending on the image that you have, okay, it's going to fill the frame differently. Now, the great thing about this is once you're in, you can then drag the image around inside that frame. So you could be, well, I really like that one. And then on this image, I really want it to be just on her hand and mouth. I don't know why you do that, but for example, and when you come back to the other one, it's saved its position. So that is a really nice feature. So let's keep it away from that for now so we see the full image, because you probably have got your crop perfectly before you do this. The next thing, stroke border. This is the little side border that you have running around your image. You can turn it on or off, okay? It can look quite nice. You can change the width down here so you can have it looking a little wider. That just puts a bit more focus on the image and brings it away from the backdrop. Smaller is cleaner and fresher. I prefer none or just a 2-pixel one myself. Up here you can click on this and you can change the color of this. Okay, now what's great about this is you can go from black to white, but also on the side you have saturation, so now you can select colors. Now, the way that I have this set up, I don't know why you'd want a color, but in certain situations you may want that. Now, there's also some helpful ones along the top that, you know, recommended ones, pure white, pure black, and then you've got essentially all of your different gray modules here that go from 80, 65, 50, 35, and so it's the other way around, but you know what I mean. So that's all of your different levels of gray that you might want to use. A good one is 50% gray. Makes everything looks nearly clean and fresh. Sorry, no, I'd use pure white because I'll have my background as 50% gray. See, that's why this gets confusing. Next thing is cast shadow. That's literally the shadow that the picture casts, so as if it's floating above the surface. Now, you can boost all these up here and have it floating a long way off the table. Strongly recommend not doing that. Instead, I wouldn't have your offset too high and your radius too high either. Somewhere around there, that kind of looks quite nice. Again, I kind of like it without as well. It's very simple, but if you did want that, that could definitely work. Now, the next thing we're going to go into is layout. Now, it's where things start getting confusing. The layout isn't the layout. It only shows one image at a time. Really what it does is talk about the frame in which the image sits inside of. So up here it's called frame. Maybe they should have called it frame down here too. Show guides. Now, it doesn't say this, but the guides never appear when you hit play anyway. This only happens, it's only for your reference, okay? Now, few things here. You can link and unlink these. So if you keep them all linked, as you slide one, you slide them all, effectively changing all the borders exactly the same, okay? Or if you unlink them all, you can then move it around, okay? And you can see that if I was to fill the frame, this is the frame here. So now I can actually move it in from the right, for example, or I can move it in from the left, for example, and I can move the image around inside the space. Now you might be wondering, well, how big is this space? It gives you only 3 options. Screen, so it analyzes the screen and it does the exact one of your screen size. The other options are 4:3, which is like old school TV, essentially, or what photographs are usually taken in, and 16:9. Which is widescreen for great videos for YouTube or something like that, or show on your TV. Never show a photograph on the TV because the colors are all wrong, in my opinion. Anyway, now you've got, so these are your guides. So now you can actually move these around and you can change the size of your frame. I'm going to turn off zoom to fill, and I'm going to bring this in so it basically fills the whole space. That looks really nice. Now the next thing is identity plate. This is what I have up here which says photos in color. Click on this and then you can edit it and add a different image in there. Use a PNG with the transparency. I have a tutorial on watermarking, which essentially this would completely work for. Okay, so this is what we have here is an identity plate. Now, what's really great about this is I can choose where it's attached to. So this is essentially, once this is clicked here, from this corner to this front corner will always be the same distance, okay? And now if I move it, so I can change the size by zooming like this. And now if I was to drag and drop this here, okay, from this to this distance will always be exactly the same. Or now from this to this. Now you might be wondering, well, what does that do? Well, let's just imagine that we have it here attached to here. And let's have it on this corner here. Now that seems like it's going to work. Now what I'm going to quickly do, yeah, that's fine actually. So that's going to kind of work. But what happens if I then add in a landscape image? Now look at this. Now all of a sudden it sits over part of it. Now there's 2 things I can do here. The first thing I can do is I can select render behind, so that means that it sits it behind the image. So that's really great. But then each time I select a different image, okay, it's going to essentially be in a different place. So one way around this is instead I attach it to the image and I attach it to the top corner and I make sure that I have render behind image unselected. So now I have this, and let's shrink it all the way down, okay? So now compared to the corner of the image, this is where it's going to be. So now if I go and look at a landscape, it now keeps it in the corner of whatever image I click on, it references that corner, which is really powerful. So I would usually reference the actual image as opposed to the corner here. If you want to do it that way, you might not want to do it that way, and I'll explain the reason why you might not want to do it that way in a moment. So let's just come back to this image. So that's your identity plate. Now, this is the reason why you might not want to attach it is because of watermarking. You might actually want to add a watermark to your image, which means that these would overlap and you'd have too many things on your photograph. You can do any watermark that you already have built in to your computer, into Lightroom. So I actually don't use it because it's usually to display your images, so I wouldn't ever use a watermark, but you might want to, so I'll turn that off. Star ratings. So this shows the star ratings. Now this works exactly the same as your identity plate. So you can attach it to whatever you want to attach it to. Again, attaching it to the bottom corner of an image and having it either inside the bottom corner means I can now move it, okay, to another image and it will stay here. Let's look at another one. It goes over here and that looks really, really nice. Or I can have it outside of the image and again, it just moves it around but underneath the image. So some great, great features there. So you can have your ratings on display if you want to. Text overlays, honestly, I don't know where it brings the text from, so I don't really know how that works. But oh, your star ratings, you can also change your color. So for example, you could actually make it a gold color if you wanted your star ratings to be like that. I actually prefer them to be black or white, like so. But yeah. So then the next thing is your backdrop, which is your background, which is what I think should be at the very beginning. Because now, for example, if I go, ooh, I want my background color to be really light, okay, I've kind of got rid of my stars. So I should have had this set so I knew what color to color my stars. And now I've also got rid of this up here. So that's just, I think that's in the wrong place. Now, there are some great features about this though. You can add a background image. Now to do that, you can literally pick up any image from your timeline and just drag it here and that now becomes your background. Now you might think, well, that's gonna look really horrible. But imagine this. You actually create an image which has your company logo and it has all sorts of information. You're having this playing on a TV and on the side you have a selection of your images playing. So for example, I could use an image like this. And then I would move, so I'd unlock these, and from the left of my screen, from the right of my screen, I move it over. So now whatever image I select, it always is just going to be over here, never affecting this. And that means that I could have all sorts of information on the side here, which again is actually very powerful, but you'd have to really work with it to make it work. Great, so let's keep going. We're nearly at the end. The last things that we're going to look at is you can set the duration of this, or you can add music to it. So you literally just click on this and select the music, which is kind of amazing. And then the next thing you can do is you can select how it works. Automatic means you select the length that each image is displayed and how long the crossfade takes. Now remember, you can only crossfade, you can't do any other effects in this. And then manual means that you basically use the left and right arrow keys to scroll through. And then you can also add a pan and zoom, which means that it kind of zooms in and moves around in your image a little bit, giving some motion within the frame, which is really nice. And then you can random and repeat, nice and simple. So then once you're done, you just hit play. It's going to quickly prepare it. Now this is what I hate, it does have to prepare all your slides before it just plays it through. And then once you're going, oh, it's because I didn't have enough images selected. So let's just select more images. And then we'll hit play. And now we're actually playing, and it's going to go through, and it's going to skip through, and it's going to fade through from each one. Looking fairly nice. Now, a few things that I want to point out. If I've gone up here and selected zoom to fill frame, okay, great feature. Now I hit play, watch this. Preparing. It then takes forever, and I mean this, forever, to go and build in each one of these things, and it has to do every single one before it will even start playing. No background playing, no like, oh, we'll prepare the first three, and then while they're going, we can prepare the next ones. Doesn't do that. You sit here for a long time. That's what I see anyway. So that's what I don't like. Whereas in other products, like on Apple or other things, you literally hit slideshow and it just starts playing, and it's amazing. So Lightroom really has some work to go with this, and it's been a feature for a very long time. So if you have any thoughts on this, please give me a comment below. Maybe I've just got it wrong and I should be using it differently. But I think that Lightroom should update. Adobe should update their slideshow feature for sure. Anyway, this was Ed Gregory for photosincolor.com. Theme tune.